Roll for Crit is made possible thanks to the support of viewers like you and our patrons on our Patreon page.
You can become a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/rollforcrit. From board games to role-playing games to the silver screen, settle in because we've got news for you from all of those walks of life coming at you right now in this news roundup.
Unmatched is a favorite game of ours which pulls characters from throughout multiple universes and worlds and has them clash together to see who would win a fight. They have now announced that they've gotten the rights to some very big properties strictly from the Marvel Universe. Mondo and Restoration Games has announced 4 new base sets to be released in 2021, each one based on its own set of Marvel characters. First off, we've got Redemption Row, which will feature Luke Cage, Ghost Rider, and Moon Knight. Then we've got Hell's Kitchen, featuring Daredevil, Elektra, and Bullseye. Then, of course, Teen Spirit will have Miss Marvel, Squirrel Girl, and Cloak and Dagger. And finally, for King and Country, we'll have Black Widow, Black Panther, and Winter Soldier. Now, these characters, while some of them are relatively big names, it's not the biggest obvious names you maybe would expect from the general Marvel lineup. So I'm very curious to see how those will be reacted, especially after the most last set. Like, how will they make these characters feel really unique and feel like, yes, this is Miss Marvel, not just a doppelganger, for example, of Alice in Wonderland, who also is known for size changing.
Yeah, I mean, so far they have done a really great job of making all the characters feel unique, whether they're a public domain or from a specific license like Jurassic Park. And it's very exciting to see them have Marvel, which is, I mean, Jurassic Park, I guess, is pretty big, but Marvel certainly feels like the biggest current license that they've got their hands on so far. A big surprise to me, and also very exciting because Unmatched originally was derived from an old Star Wars duel game, which was sort of the same concept, a little bit different gameplay, but it was all just Star Wars characters. And I had, like most people, assumed that was out the window. They were never going to get Star Wars into this. But if they've got Marvel now, that Disney clearly is willing to work with them, that opens up the door to Star Wars or a lot of other exciting possibilities. My only slight hesitation about this is, I mean, I'm excited because I'm a Marvel fan, and I'm happy there's going to be a lot of Marvel characters in the game. I mean, that's a lot of sets to release. On the other hand, I feel like after these sets come out, I think that will mean that at least half of the Unmatched characters that are available right now are from Marvel. I'm worried. I don't want the licenses to dominate too much in one way or the other. I like to see them mix it up with the weirder, something from a fairy tale, or even Bruce Lee, who's a real person. So I hope it doesn't just become another thing, another vehicle for Marvel or whatever else comes down the pipeline. But still, as a player, I'm personally very excited to try these out.
Yeah, I think unfortunately these will sell very well and sort of hint at like, this is what we need to do for Unmatched. Even though that, like, I enjoy when they have more of like, okay, how are we going to try to make Red Riding Hood feel like our Red Riding Hood? Or even the Jurassic Park one. It's a big license, but like if you're saying I'm bringing Marvel into a fighting game, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know what the characters I'd like to see. Mm-hmm. When you say Jurassic Park, you're like, I wonder how are they going to make that work? It feels more...
It's not as obvious.
Yes. There are ones that I would love to see and play with. It's just, when you hear the 4 sets.
Right. It's a lot. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. But still, overall, I'm very excited. I think it's awesome news. And I'm looking forward to Daredevil. I mean, it's hard to go against if you got to pick one of these. The one with Black Panther, Black Widow, and Winter Soldier, it definitely has like the heaviest hitters in terms of the A-listers, I think.
I think Moon Knight, Luke Cage, and Ghost Rider are awesome. And I also think that they're going to be interesting to see what they do with, how they use them in the game.
Yeah.
So I guess they're the ones I'm most excited for mechanically speaking.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out exactly when they're released, I guess, if they're close together, if they spread these out over the course of the whole next year. But it'll be interesting to see how Unmatched evolves after this, from this point forward. A new Dungeons & Dragons movie is in the works, has been for a little while now, from Paramount, and the same directors that brought us Spider-Man Homecoming, as well as the recent movie Game Night. And now we have learned that Chris Pine, who you probably know from Star Trek or Wonder Woman, is in talks to star in this upcoming Dungeons and Dragons film. That is really all that we know so far. There are still no details as to the plot or anything else regarding the movie, but to me, I think having Chris Pine as the lead actor does say a lot about the tone and style and perhaps the scope of what this film might offer, as opposed to, of course, there's the famous Dungeons and Dragons movie with the Wayans brothers, or maybe it's just Marlon Wayans, that came out a decade or two ago that was not very well received. That was fairly goofy. To me, I see Chris Pine's name, and, he's an action star. And while the directors of this have done mostly comedies before, up until now, I feel like you don't get Chris Pine unless you're ready to do some big, heavy-hitting, cool fantasy action scenes. Something in the vein of the Marvel movies is what I'm expecting out of this, and I think it's interesting. It also, he's an A-list star, so they are clearly positioning this movie to be a big success and putting a lot of money into it. Hopefully, what do you think about Chris Pine or what he says for the D&D movie?
Well, I am happy, as you said, like an A-list means it's like, all right, they're willing to put the money into this. At least we hope.
Yeah.
Like it isn't like someone that no one's ever heard of. At the same time, I'm still a little like the movies you mentioned before that the directors have worked on. We don't know much. I would just love, even though they're not like A-list actors or anything, like anyone that's like worked or we just know is a big D&D fan. It's something that shows that like, it's not, I just like that they're gonna go into and actually like someone who respects and loves fantasy. I just don't know if
I don't know that these directors don't. I haven't looked into their history.
Right. But I mean, like if I heard a name that of some people, because there are plenty of actors that we know.
Oh, in terms of the actors. Yeah. I mean, it would be great to see Vin Diesel in the D&D movie, for sure.
I mean, I'm not even just thinking about him, he'd be great. I almost want him to be like...
He should be a villain or something.
No, I want him to be like a cameo, but he's playing his, what was it, a witch hunter?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Vin Diesel makes his own D&D movies. All his movies are D&D movies.
I want them like as if it's like two parties, like just like boats passing at night, whatever the phrase is.
Yes, that's what it is.
Something like that. But, just something to be like, it's not going to end up, like the Monster Hunter movie or anything like that, where you're just like, they have the rights, but not the spirit.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's still, anything could happen at this point because we know so little. But hopefully they nail the tone, and at least they're putting their all into it. Clearly, Hasbro is serious about making this a property that is recognized. Making it a big franchise across multiple mediums, not just RPG books.
Modiphius had its ModCon recently, where they announced quite a lot of products. So I'm going to quickly list through all of them. And first off, we got a Dune RPG. This will actually be released in 3 special covers, each one available in a different area. We've also got a Fallout RPG using the 2D20 system. Star Trek's going to have a special tricorder edition, a big tricorder bag with lots of goodies for the Star Trek RPG, and of course some more things for even including from the Star Trek Picard show. There's also a huge Elder Scrolls miniature dragon coming for the miniatures game there, as well as Uktung Cthulhu using a new book of the 2D20 system. The big one for me, at least, obviously, is Fallout. They actually also mentioned some stuff on the miniatures game. I think big boxes for Caesar's Legion, as well as the NRC, which is from the new Vegas games and probably a lot of people's favorites. And I mean, I think the Fallout world is a great world, and I've been dying to try out the RPG. It's just always hard to get people to table for that. And, all these other ones too, it's a lot of great properties that people have been dying to dive into some of these worlds, especially with Dune, with the movies coming out. Mm-hmm. I was about to say movies. Yes, hopefully.
At least one, hopefully.
Yeah. Didn't they say that's going to be a 2-parter?
I think it's based on the success of the first one. So
they always
we'll find out. But yeah, I mean, that's exciting. There has been at least one Dune RPG years ago. I don't know how popular it was with fans, but that's still really cool to see. I'm really curious why they felt they needed a wholly separate Fallout RPG, and if that's kind of going to overtake the Wasteland Warfare version of it, or if they think they're different enough that they can live side by side with each other. Like you said, unfortunately, we have another chance to try that original one out, but maybe at some point. But maybe they just felt like they wanted something that was more a broader approach that didn't necessarily, people didn't think had to tie in with the miniatures game in any way.
I think that's more of it, because like they also announced the Cthulhu book that uses the same rules. I think the idea is, look, let's not make people see, because look, any miniatures game has a very high buy-in usually. And if you've never played any miniatures game before, you're not sure about that. If you're like, oh, I want to try this Fallout thing. Oh, it's based on a miniatures game. Oh, that's expensive. Maybe I don't want to do it. Right. When I'm pretty sure you can just buy the book. Like, you don't need the miniatures to play that original RPG. But it's definitely something to take a look at, because odds are, if there's a show you like watching, there's a good chance Modiphius now has an RPG coming out for it.
Renegade Game Studios has 2 new titles coming up that are both based on their Kids on Bikes series of RPGs. So for Kids on Bikes, they have a board game called The Snallygaster Situation. This is a cooperative board game based on that RPG, which is an 80s sci-fi, paranormal, Stranger Things-esque setting in which you are fighting off against different monsters, including perhaps the Snallygaster, and one player is going to be lost, and they have to give the other players clues as to their location while trying to keep them safe from where those monsters are headed. And then they also have the spin-off Kids on Brooms, which is themed around a magical school. And the card game version of that has been announced, and it is called Duel of Wands. And this is going to be a competitive game in which you are slinging spells at each other, trying to lower the other player's psyche in order to win. Both of these slated for 2021 release. I think it's interesting that, the Kids on Bikes RPG started out as an independent Kickstarter, then Renegade picked it up, and now it's turning into like a multimedia franchise that they're branching it off into these other properties. We talked a little bit about the Kids on Bikes board game on our podcast on Patreon already, but the Kids on Brooms one is new. And they also have, I'm blanking on the name of it now, but they have a space-themed version, Kids in Space or something, something along those lines.
I think it's Teens.
Teens in Space, that's what it is. They're teens in that one. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that follow along soon too.
It's a very curious idea of like the themes, because like, as you said, it sounds like they're slowly expanding media, but like, a lot of this, I don't know if they're gonna. Do you think they'll go to the TV show? Because Tales from the Loop, which is generally the same sort of idea, like went there. But do you think that they're gonna go that far?
That they would try to branch out to other
a movie or TV?
Yeah. I mean, I would guess probably not, just because it's Renegade Game Studios. I haven't seen them show interest in anything like that before, and they might not think they can compete in those areas as well as they can in the tabletop realm, but it's something that they maybe could explore at some point, or maybe if not a TV show, maybe comic books or something like that. So another form of narrative could be developed.
They should talk with the guys to make a Choose Your Own Adventure series.
Oh, that could be fun. Books. Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's a cool crossover. What I would think would be where they could take advantage of it is in the gaming area. That could be like either, whether it's just like little phone apps stories, like almost still like the Choose Your Own Adventure kind of thing, or if they really want to go ambitious, can you imagine like a VR game of this?
Yeah, or any kind of video game. There's a lot of different things you could do, big or small, with a video game version of it. But it's cool if you are into those settings. I think they'll be loosely based on the RPG. It sounds like Kids on Bikes board game will be a little closer to the spirit of it, whereas the RPG for Kids on Brooms, the card game version is like more, like Harry Potter duels as opposed to like working together on an adventure sort of a thing. So different flavors, but I like that they're taking them in different directions. You have different options to choose from. We'll see how they turn out. We will leave you with some new and notable board game releases before we close the show, starting with Eon's End Return to Gravehold, a new expansion for that co-op fantasy deck building game. This one adds new mages, new nemesis, and some other goodies for you to mix and match with your other Eon's End sets. Then, I can't believe it's actually happening, but Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core, is being released from Gale Force 9, based on the Aliens film. This is a co-op game with Aliens tokens and minis. You can play different missions, even a small campaign mode, trying to take down the xenomorphs from that classic film. The Castles of Tuscany is out now. We reviewed this one. It's a follow-up to Castles of Burgundy from Stefan Feld, a fast-paced Euro game in which you are placing tiles of different types, trying to score points by building up your province the best it can be in Renaissance period. Detective City of Angels from Van Ryder Games is now available at retail. This is a deduction game in which one player has all the secrets behind a mystery and the others are competing or perhaps working together to try to solve it. This is one of our favorite games from last year, but up until now it was only available through their Kickstarter or their store at conventions. They are now selling it at retail. Any regular game store that you look, you can find it, so we recommend you go pick that one up if you like detective-style games. Dune Imperium is available now from Direwolf Digital. This is based on the Dune universe. It has art specifically inspired by the upcoming movie that we said may or may not come out someday. It's a deck-building, worker placement game. You're trying to lead your faction to victory on the planet of Arrakis. Exit has 2 new boxes available for you to try. There's the Cemetery of the Night, which is about trying to find some relics in a graveyard or a tomb of some kind. And then there's the Enchanted Forest, which is more fairy tale-like. These are both escape room games in a box that are one-time use, fun for the whole family. Paleo is also available. This is all about prehistoric times. You are cave people, so to speak, and you are trying to go out, gather resources, and feed your families in order to make a nice mammoth painting and continue your legacy without getting killed.
Just in time for the holidays, we've got Patchwork Christmas Edition, which is a Christmas-themed patchwork, but it does come with a cookie cutter for you to use if you enjoy cooking. We've got Robinson Crusoe Treasure Chest, which is actually all the promos and an updated compendium rulebook for Robinson Crusoe. Definitely one of the things I would love to buy in order to get those other goodies you may have missed out on earlier. And of course, a complete rulebook is always a great thing to have. Sidereal Confluence Remastered Edition is a re-release of this classic game. It's all about bartering and trading with the other players, and while it is competitive, you will need to work together because no race can fight it out on their own. Then we've got Spy Fest, which we did a review for. You are all spies at a spy convention, and you need to find out who your contact is dressed up as without the other team guessing who they are before you do. We've got Under Falling Skies, another game we reviewed, which is actually a single-player game in which you need to fight off an alien mothership attacking different cities. This actually does have a campaign mode as well as just standalone gameplay. Then we've got Unicorn Fever, which is a game all about unicorns racing on rainbows, and you're going to be trying to make bets on those unicorns and, of course, fixing it by either making contracts with unscrupulous people, as well as, of course, casting some magic spells to push the things in your favor. We've also got Unmatched, the Buffy the Vampire version. This will include Buffy the Vampire as well as many characters from the show. So if you want to add those characters to your Unmatched games, you should totally do so.
So if you're doing your very last minute holiday shopping, I mean, if you're celebrating Hanukkah, I think you're done. I think it's too late. But these are some final games that you might want to add to your wish list or buy for somebody else. Like I alluded to, I think the biggest surprise for me almost is the Aliens game, which we've been talking about for a couple years now, and I thought would once again be on our preview list for 2021, but they just made it in time. That is available. You can get it, and hopefully we'll be playing it pretty soon, finally.
Yeah, just in time for us to scramble and hope that we get a chance to look at it before it becomes the Wish we got a chance to play it when we make our top 2020 games.
Right.
You gotta love all the games that released in December because those are the ones we need to play. Like, we'll make the list in time.
Yeah, Dune Imperium, another one we might not get to play. That really came out kind of at the last minute. A lot of other fun ones in here. I mean, I'm excited to try the Buffy Unmatched sets because that's one of my favorite series.
I feel like that's one you've been dying to get your hands on since like Unmatched was first, able to hit the table.
Yeah, that was one of the ones they mentioned like when it was first announced, and it's finally out. So I'm super stoked about that. And Sidereal Confluence, excited to play it. Maybe not the best time for that game to have been released since you want like at least 5 or 6 people to play it with. But it's,
if I were going to call correctly, I believe the minimum's 4.
Minimum, I think you could even maybe play it with 3, but like they don't recommend it. But yeah, hopefully at some point we can try to get the full experience for all these games. Lots of stuff to talk about. In the comments section, of course, we want to hear from you right now, which ones you're looking forward to, or what your thoughts are on any of our other things going on. And you should also be keeping an eye on our channel because you've got like a day left to enter our contest to win My City since we hit 15,000 subscribers. You can find our video for that, as well as now we have another contest in the same vein for a set of Marvel Champions art sleeves, which also just came out in the past week. So find our videos elsewhere. We'll link them in the description below. You can try to enter those contests while there's still time.
I would love to hear what Marvel characters do you think Unmatched should have? Do you think they should go after the main big hitters, or should they try to get maybe some of the more weirder Marvel characters? And as Jonathan alluded to, this used to be Star Wars. So who should be the first Star Wars characters to return, and why should it be Jar Jar Binks?
Yeah, I know why it should be. Maybe Baby Yoda.
Well, no, Baby Yoda's got to be with the Mandalorian.
No. Or Baby Yoda's his own set.
Who's the figure? No, who's the figure?
It's
who's
2 Baby Yodas. That's all I'm interested in. Talk to us in the comments. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hope you have a safe and happy holiday season if we don't hear from you again. But we will have more videos coming out soon, including our best of the year list. So you're going to want to stay tuned. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was Roll for Crit.
We want you to like and subscribe, and if you have the chance, take a look at our Patreon.
Thank you for being a friend. Subscribe to our channel and back again. Okay.